This is the average Megaman Battle Network run, and this is Megaman Battle Network at its breaking point. Recently, I posted a video breaking down and analyzing just how far players can take the combat in the Megaman Battle Network series. At that time, I only really covered 2 clips and didn't really intend to go any deeper than that, but after reading the comments, I realized that there was a lot more I could have gone over, so today I aim to rectify that mistake and go further in depth on just how deep the game's combat can really go. We'll be going over every game in the main series from 1 to 6. So watch till the end to find out the ways that players abused Megaman Battle Network's combat. The original Megaman Battle Network suffers from what I call first game syndrome. That is to say, it's got a lot of quirks and issues that would be refined in later titles. Most of those problems stem from the developers trying to figure things out. After all, it was the first step into an entirely brand new IP based on Mega Man with vastly different gameplay. If you want to know about the basics, I recommend watching this previous video first. Go ahead and pause if you like. Once you're done, let's go ahead and continue. Are you done? Great. In Battle Network 1, combat was pretty unbalanced, mainly due to 2 factors. First off, Boss House was pretty small, something that was fixed in immediate sequels, and there weren't any practical limits on battle chips. You could have upwards of 10 copies of a standard chip and 5 copies of a Navi chip. Standard chips are your regular rarities, only hindered by the number of copies you can run. Navi chips are like summons in JRPGs. They'll both stop time and perform their designated actions. In both Battle Network 1 and 2, your limit was about 5 copies per Navi chip. Mega Man's only other mechanic at that point was the power-up, something only done in those first 2 games. Throughout those games, Mega Man can find and or purchase power-ups, which can be used to raise one of his Mega Buster stats. Attack, which focuses on how much damage the Buster deals, Rapid, how fast you can spam the Buster, and Charge, the amount of time it would take to charge and unleash a stronger shot. This was the game's way of strengthening your basic attack, and one of the things unique to Battle Network 1 compared to the rest of the series was the add feature. By not selecting any chips, you use this feature to expand the chip selection pool up to a maximum of 15. Lastly, the game featured an armor system where you can select an elemental type and gain half damage resistance to that element, but you take double from its weakness. As you can imagine, it's pretty dull, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still Battle Network. That unique gameplay is why it captivated so many of us. Speaking of, just how far can you go as to the game's combat? Due to being one of the least popular games to play, we really only have Dirge, one of the best and well-known players in this space, to showcase that. And so, our first clip starts with Color Man, whose main gimmick is utilizing these 2 mini puppets to spawn homing fire and aqua towers alongside bouncing his ball on you. The following chips are loaded: Geddon 1, Buster Bomb, and Pop-Up. Geddon 1 turns all panels into cracks, so that means the moment you step on one and leave, it'll become a hole. Buster Bomb is a series of Buster chips which, for one turn, transforms your Mega Buster into the following attacks. In this case, it'll become a mini bomb, dealing 50 damage per lob. Then Pop-Up allows you to be invisible while you're not attacking, essentially hiding underground. Once the panels go cracked, Dirge sets up his remaining 2 chips and immediately begins lobbing just as Color Man approaches the upper back left panel. At that point, it's pretty much GG. It's quick, but was it fun to watch? Well, I would say it is pretty funny watching a boss just be unable to move while it's being pelted with carpet bombs. But I know he didn't come here all the way just to see someone throw balls at someone's face. So let's move on to the second clip, like I had to. This is Sharkman. He's one of the most infamous bosses in all of Battle Network. His main gimmick is that he hides under one of 3 shark fins that'll spawn on each column of his area. They'll shoot out these unusually fast projectiles, all while you have to find and attack the real one. And once he's caught, he'll throw in an aqua tower before diving right back down. He's pretty annoying, but just watch. He's about to make him an absolute joke. The chip loadout starts like this: Area Grab, 3 Ring Zap 2s, and an Elecman V3. Area Grab, then move forward. Activates all 3 Ring Zap 2s in rapid succession before using Elecman V3, which has the titular Navi bring down a lightning bolt. To break down what's happening, Ring Zap 2 causes lightning to circle around you twice. However, once that lightning hits an opponent, it'll disappear. So that's still technically about 100 damage. I could be wrong on that, so if someone's able to correct me on that, that'd be wonderful. Regardless, 3 of those is 300, but since Sharkman is weak to electric attacks, that's 600 in total. With Select Man version 3, that's 152 times 2 for 300, which is exactly 900 HP, the amount Sharkman V3 has. Like I said, the HP pools in this game were pretty small compared to later entries. Battle Network 1 doesn't have nearly the same amount of complexity. It's not a bad game by any means, but it is lacking in folder diversity. However, despite all the negatives that the first game has, I think it's still important to say that this game was able to get a lot of the formula down from the get-go. From the battle system to the progression, much of that remains true for the rest of the series, albeit with way more quality of life improvements. Next up, we've got Battle Network 2, which made significant improvements which carry on towards the entire series. First, the number of standard chips you can run per copy has been reduced from 10 to 5. Navi chips remain the same. This is also when the asterisk code was added to battle chips due to the necessity of needing a wider variety of chips. In addition, the add button no longer temporarily expands the screen capacity by 5 slots. Instead, it lets players discard their currently selected chips to permanently expand their capacity by that many discarded. Lastly, one of the most important additions is Style Change, replacing the armor feature from the first game. Mega Man can unlock one of 4 styles, each able to have one of the 4 elements. Acquiring these styles will fully depend on your playstyle. Guts focuses on Mega Buster usage, Custom focuses on battle chip usage, Team focuses on Navi chips, and Shield style focuses on defensive chips. There's also a secret 5th style, the Hub style, which is essentially the strongest one and is a post-game unlockable. In addition, their charge shot will depend on the corresponding element. These changes allow for a far greater diverse pool of strategies compared to the first. So let's see if these changes can give us some truly peak gameplay. Let's get started. This is Shadow Man, one of the trickier bosses in Battle Network 2. He focuses on overpowering you by using shadow clones, which regenerate after being done in one hit. It's as fictional shinobi as you can get with him, but that doesn't really matter. The chip loadout for turn 1 is Full Cust, Anti-Fire, and Fire plus 40. Immediately after Full Cust, his custom gauge goes to full, which lets him go back to the custom menu. Before that, he activates Anti-Fire. This chip is a trap chip, which triggers if the enemy uses fire-based attacks. The moment this happens, time freezes and they take the damage specified. But not only are they prevented from using that attack, but it also counters them as well. The second chip lineup, we've got Heat Ball, Yo-Yo 3, 2 attack plus 30s, and Silver Fist. Immediately, he sets up Heat Ball, which is a pretty unique chip in this game. Basically, it spawns in a balloon from the Octon virus. This balloon starts at the set damage listed on the chip. If it takes damage while moving, it'll increase its damage equal to that amount. Once it makes contact with something, it'll cause an explosion on all panels on that side. In addition, he makes use of Hub style by using the shield bonus he gets from it to block the shuriken attacks. As he does this, the balloon absorbs Shadow Man shuriken damage, then he uses the boosted Yo-Yo 3, which will deal damage going forward and back. But not only does the balloon get the damage, but Shadow Man takes it as well. Another important thing to note is that because Shadow Man is being struck by the bladed Yo-Yo, he'll take more damage due to suffering more hits. That's 120 times 3 for 360. Then a Silver Fist at the balloon. So that was a 600 damage explosion, but if you paid attention, you noticed the grass panels. Grass panels will cost double damage when an enemy takes fire damage, so that's 1200. This leaves him with 400 HP left as anti-fire kicks in, sealing the deal. It's pretty nice, but we can go even further beyond. How about making the final boss an absolute joke as it chills out? That pun is fully intended because here, Thurge does the absolute most base thing and takes these powerful base chips and just throws it upon Full Cust. He does this twice in a row. Now that's an absolute messiah. Now here's the critical moment, Freeze Bomb. This chip is pretty special since it's one of 10 secret battle chips that you can only obtain in PvP. In addition, it can only be used if Mega Man is in an Aqua style change. All it does is throw a bomb 3 panels ahead, forms ice shards in the cross pattern, and freezes on contact. The remaining chips are all Jealousy, which is a pretty interesting chip. This one causes damage to your opponent for every chip that they have selected. So if your opponent had 5 chips lined up, that's 250 damage. But wait, that sounds like a PvP centric chip. And you'd be right. However, certain enemies do work with Jealousy for whatever reason. This is where we need to discuss the Jealousy exploit. You see, Gospel is able to be damaged by the Jealousy chip 3 times per instance. However, if this happens while the enemy is frozen with Freeze Bomb, that damage suddenly ramps up to 250 damage per hit. That's right, the final boss has become nothing but a cult pun. Before we go into Battle Network 3, I, at the very least, would like to go over one more clip. If only to highlight that, despite the battle chip balancing done in this game, it still wasn't enough. To really illustrate that purpose, let me present you with this. What you see is a modified 9000 HP Gutsman. The slow ticking HP increase really says it all, but the more important part is what's happening. This is the Bodyguard Program Advance. I didn't elect to mention program advances before, so I'll talk about it briefly. If you select certain chips in a certain order within certain codes, they'll transform into a special powerful attack. Battle Network 1 features some extremely awful program advances that aren't even worth mentioning. Battle Network 2, however, is a slight improvement. A quick PSA though, if you're a first timer and you want to get to the main story quickly, the Bodyguard Program Advance is made up of Drop Down S, Anti-Damage S, and any version of Shadow Man S. It creates a trap that will trigger once Mega Man takes any instance of a hit. Shadow Man spawns in and shoots a total of 18 shuriken, each dealing 100 damage. That's a total of 1800 damage. Due to the 5-copy battle chip rule, you can just see how insanely consistent the game can be once you actually have the required copies. Full Cost gives him an instant custom menu to get more bodyguards, a full 10 chip loadout thanks to hub style. You can start to see why battle chip balancing was necessary. Even 9000 HP isn't enough to stop you. All in all, Battle Network 2 was a step up from the first game in virtually every way. The balancing measures to chips was a start, but it's still quite easy to exploit and far from the most balanced. Still, it introduced style change, which went a long way in establishing new ways to engage in the series combat. Of course, it all culminates together into the next entry. At long last, we've come to Battle Network 3. Many cite this as one of the best in the series and is the one that's made significant changes that lasted throughout the entire series. While Battle Networks 1 and 2 can be played casually for the story, 3 and onwards is where you can really start having fun with experimentation, though progression is another story. But that's not for this video. Aside from quality of life improvements made to the game, style change has also gone through some adjustments. The major one is the fact that the styles come equipped with toned down abilities than the second. This is to make way for the next greatest improvement to the franchise, the Navi Customizer, but we'll get to that soon. Despite how it might seem, the styles are much greater than they were previously. In addition to that, we have 3 new styles. Ground Style, which is focused on panel manipulation, Battle Style focusing on invisibility, and Bug Style, which uses the power of bugs to some very wacky but powerful effects. This is also where they started doing 2 version splits. In this game it's blue and white or black and white in Japan. Both versions are noted for having one of the first 2 of the new styles listed for their game, along with a unique boss and slight chip and shop differences. Speaking of chips, that's also gone through some major changes as well. Now you can only ever have 4 copies of a standard chip. In addition, Navi chips have been bundled together with a few others into the Mega Chip category. You can have a total of 5 Mega Chips per folder. Unlike before, you also can't run 2 of the same Mega Chip in a folder. You must run different versions of a Navi chip now instead of spamming the highest version. And from this game onward, we have a higher, more powerful tier of chips known as Giga Chips. These are the strongest kind there are, with them being limited to only 1 copy per folder. From here on, what version you play will also affect what Giga Chips you can acquire. At long last, we can talk about the Navi Customizer. In my last video, I already discussed the basics, so I'm gonna skip over that. Instead, I wanted to go over what happens when you break the Customizer rules. The rules are simple. Don't put any of the blocky parts on the center line, and make sure the non-blocky parts touch the center line. And lastly, don't put 2 of the same color next to each other. If you break one of these rules, Mega Man will have a bug based on what part broke that rule. These bugs can progress into worse states the more certain blocks cause bugs. Luckily, there is a part called Bug Stop which prevents that from happening, but keep in mind you have limited space to work with. Even so, you can acquire expansions to increase the space as well as spin programs to adjust their positioning. If that wasn't enough, there's even specific button commands to compress them, turning them into slightly smaller shapes. With all that said, there's a lot we can analyze, so I'm gonna keep it simple and break down several clips that should showcase a good chunk of what this game has to offer. Our first showcase is with the iconic Gutsman. You can tell it's old because of Bandicam. Good times. First chip loadout is Flashman V4, Neo Variable, Navi Recycle, Neo Variable again, and Full Cust. Flashman immediately comes in with a stun. Pretty simple. Neo Variable is a special sword chip that normally performs a regular sword attack. However, with input commands, you can perform the powerful Elemental Sonic attack, which causes Mega Man to shoot out 4 Elemental Sword Wave attacks in quick succession. It normally deals 240 damage, but with the Elemental Sonic, that's 240 times 4 to output to 960. Pretty crazy, but don't forget that wood deals double the electric elemental, so that's actually 1200 damage. It might sound easy to do, but the command might throw off plenty of players. Then we have have one of the Giga chips in white version, Navi Recycle. It's a simple chip that lets you reuse one of the Navi chips you already used. One cool thing to note is that this also factors in any power boost you had applied to that chip. By doing this, Flashman appears again and continues the stun cycle. That way the opponent won't go into iframes yet. The boss is then finished off with another Elemental Sonic. Simple but effective. And that's just possible with any form of Mega Man. But is it possible to play while bugged? Well, here's a fun one involving Gutsman again. In this clip, Mega Man is already starting the game confused. This happens due to the player movement bug, which is caused by a few parts. At level 3, you're always confused, which means your movements are randomized. Now, why on earth would you want that to happen? Let's take a look. Our chip letter is Poison Mask A, Poison Face A, Anubis A, and Panic. These 3 chips combine to form the program advanced Poison Pharaoh, which spawns in Pharaoh Man. It poisons every enemy at double the speed of Anubis, so it's pretty potent. But the real kicker is Panic. It's a chip exclusive only to BN3 that applies confusion to all enemies, but only if you are. Now you see why he started the battle confused. A bit of a hilarious side note. If you use this chip without an official GBA BIOS, using this chip will crash the game upon being used. Basically, official hardware is screwed if you dare use it. In any case, what happens when enemies are confused? Well, not only will they stop moving, but they'll try to keep attacking while stuck on that panel. Essentially, you can stun lock the bosses. It's great stuff. Now, I'm sure to some people that doesn't sound like fun. Some people really want to lay some violence with their own 2 hands. Well, how about just being the final boss with the Buster? It's a style I haven't really gone over, but the Gut style is all about the Mega Buster if you need a reminder. It replaces your standard Buster fire with a short rapid fire burst, almost like the machine gun. That said, Alpha's gimmick is that you can only start damaging him once you strike through the protective layer surrounding his purple core. As you can see, even the most unga bunga Buster strategy can work in this game. It's not the sort of insane gameplay you're expecting, but I want to showcase that the diversity of gameplay in Battle Network 3 is amazing. Regardless, I'm guessing you feel that's just too easy, right? Maybe you want to do something on a real challenge, something that makes you pull some insane moves, right? Then let's try a modified base, the premier post-game boss of the entire series, who spawns in with a 200 HP life aura, meaning it goes away after taking 200 points of damage only to then regenerate later. Along with that, a few permanent holes and 3 holy panels on the back that reduces damage by half. Here we start off with Rook, full cusp, anti-damage, and 2 prisms. The turn starts and he places a Rook right in front. The Rook chip spawns in a defensive Rook chest piece that acts as a barrier. It can block most attacks, but it can be broken through attacks that pierce or go through it. After he plants the anti-damage, he instantly full cusp before throwing a prism and entering the second custom menu. Prism is one of the most powerful chips in Battle Network 3. Essentially, you throw a prism 3 panels forward that, upon being damaged, will cause damage to the opponent equal to the amount. No matter who damages it, the opponent will always take the damage. It only lasts for a short while, but that's enough. On the second custom screen, he goes for Gaia Sword, No Beams 3, Geyser, another No Beams 3, and a Mine. Gaia Sword is one of the elemental-based mega chips that can only be used if you're of that elemental type. It's essentially a 2-panel sword attack that deals 100 wood damage on base. However, the kicker is that any chip you select after it will have its power added to the chip's damage. As soon as base goes to strike the prism, which his attack power will be reflected on him, the 1000 damage Gaia Sword strikes. This has his HP ticking down until he reaches 1300 HP, so that was a total of 1200 damage. Now that we're on the third custom screen, the order is Northwind, Geyser, Fast Gauge, and another Rook. Northwind is a pretty handy chip that gets rid of any and all aura on the opponent's field. This means until they reactivate or in PvP activate another aura chip, it's not coming back. Once that happens, he throws the Geyser, which deals 200 damage. Base unleashes one of his special attacks, which causes the custom gauge to slow just as Mega Man was performing the anti-damage Shuriken Strike, which is 100 damage with 3 shooting stars for 300 total. At that point, he uses Fast Gauge, then Rook in front to guard him from Base's shooting Buster attack, another custom screen, and its Ice Stage and Base GS, which is a special event chip you can't get in the main game through ordinary means. Once Base breaks the Rook, the Ice Stage is planted and then Base GS kicks in, dealing 700 damage. Then, at last, anti-damage delivers the final blow. Now, how did that happen? Anti-damage already triggered. Well, there's the anti-damage Navi customizer part that you can get once you reach level 4 in Shadow Style. It's a bit big, but it does allow you to set up a free temporary anti-damage for just 100 damage. Though even a modified Base GS, the strongest version of him, can be bullied pretty hard. In that case, what else is there even left to discuss? Easy, the art of the disrespect. What happens when you want to beat a boss at their own game? Time to find out. This is Proto Man, the titular rival character. He's a sword user, but the thing is, so is Megaman. The turn starts with him using full cust to get rid of some chips he doesn't need. Second custom menu, anti-sword, slasher, sensor 3, and 2 air shots. Anti-sword is the anti-damage equivalent to sword attacks, so that's already disrespectful enough. Now, when Proto Man goes in for the attack, he gets blocked. This is due to the Reflect Navi Customizer program, which you can only get once you reach level 4 in shield style. You press left B to shield and reflect for 100 damage. Proto Man attempts to jump from behind, but slasher activates. This is a chip that you use while holding down the A button. When an enemy reaches your area, you let go and you can unleash a sword attack that targets the area around you. He sets up the Sensor 3, which spawns in a Joker Eye virus as it targets anything in the panel it's looking at within upper right, center, and lower right. Now, Proto Man is caught in a stun beam attack, after which Megaman follows with the air shot, pushing him back. This is important because when enemies are pushed or pulled while within contact of the beam, that damage is triggered again. Next custom screen, and now it's Prism, Air Shot, Prism, 2 Air Shot 3s. Prism is thrown as the sensor disappears. Proto Man attacks only to take his own damage. No matter how many times Proto Man attacks, it's easily blocked. It's here within the final custom screen that the real disrespect forms. As soon as battle starts, Proto Man initiates his special move, which is only done when he's in low health, the Delta Ray Edge. He swipes 3 times before aura farming by facing the opposite direction as the triangle forms. Just as his third attack is blocked and he poses, the Delta Ray Edge Giga Chip is used, throwing his own attack right back at him. There is no recovering after that level of disrespect. It's really insane just how much you can get away with in this game. If there's a takeaway from this, it's that Battle Network 3 is an extremely special game. The first 2 games were a build up to what was at the time their magnum opus. Between the style changes, the Navi Customizer, and the greater degree of folder building, this game is a part of the reason why the series' legacy has been kept intact. We still have 3 more games left, but it's going to be a hard act to follow. I surely can't imagine things getting even crazier.